Yes.
So when you actually achieve the lighting perfectly, people are just going to look at it and go, oh, that's lush, that, but no one's going to mention it.
Not consider, the light's coming from. Yeah, it's more.
Yeah,
like, that looks like a good model. It's like
just
there's so much more to it. Like, let me talk about it.
Come on, just ask me.
Yeah.
And it's that.
My lass started off. I need to be careful how I phrase this. I started my lass off with rimming. And she's really good at it.
Nobody's going to paint. Well, sorry, if you do paint 20 Marines or 20 of a unit to the 10 out of 10 standard, like, well done you, but at the same time, stop it.
Hi everyone and welcome to Warhammer. We're your hosts, Jack
And Dan.
Today we have a lovely guest on, Mikey from Live and Let's Dice.
Hello.
Mikey, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, boys.
Very well, very well. How are you anyways? Been alright?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's been a lovely morning.
Good.
You know, bacon sandwich in.
Bacon sandwich.
It's sunny. It's bright. I'm hydrated. I've slept well. I'm ready to talk hammer.
Hey, perfect.
Brilliant. It's also great to get a fellow ginger on the show. He's got a better beard than me, though.
I
so.
feel outnumbered now. This is
Finally, yeah.
I've called my dog in. Like, hey, Jess, come here. No, little brown dog head. But no, it's lovely to have you on. We've got loads to talk about, and I'm looking forward to talking about because I've got a bunch of questions. I feel like I'm going to be asking a lot of questions on painting because I've got some stuff. I might even whack out some Warhammer to be like, could you review this now? No, but
Happily.
I won't.
I thought you were going to ask him to paint it while he was here.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a pile of shame. I really want you to get sorted for us. but yes.
Let's start. First things first. Live and Let's Dice is a huge channel. But if just in case there is anybody out there who doesn't know who you are and what Live and Let's Dice does, please give us the short summary.
Well, hello. I'm Mikey from Live and Let's Dice. Feels strange not saying that in my own. It's not my own environment. It's like I'm Mikey from Live and Let's Dice. I'm a part of a reasonably smallish, large channel. However you want to look at it. We're just around 30,000 subscribers, and we've been going since about October 2017. It's been very slow. It's obviously like it's a passion project that started as 4 friends. Well, it was 3 friends that has grown to 4 friends now.
Very nice.
And it was just a group of mates talking about board games. We were all just hanging out in my loft, having a chat, having a drink, and we just kind of went, I really like Warhammer. We just sort of kind of got on the subject of Warhammer, and then it was just, should we
make something
of it? Should we give it a go? And we started doing it, and then it was like getting some traction. And then we were just like, hang on a minute. Now we're going to all these events, and it's just like,
it's kind of snowballing from there down and down.
Yeah. And we've always approached it with the attitude of it's just a group of friends having fun.
Good.
If that fun's not there, then the whole thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
Take it back. Pack it in. Get rid of it. But no, what kind of board games was it?
So initially we started with things like Escape the Dark Castle.
Oh, okay.
What else did we do?
That's it. It's like as soon as it gets
Escape the Dark Castle, there was a couple of zombie ones. We picked up one, like there was like an 80s themed Tron style light bike game called Laser Riders, and we made this kind of like 80s kind of dumb VHS advert for it and stuff. And like Lawson, we kind of ripped off Terminator with like Lawson like pretending to read the rules. And it was, he didn't pretend, he actually did read the rules. Nice. But yeah, so we all kind of had these kind of like jokey kind of things because at the time Lawson was the most who was into Warhammer, and like it was quite interesting because when you see, obviously when someone says they're into Warhammer and they've been into it for a long time, you assume that they're moderately good at the game.
Assume.
No offense, buddy, I love you to pieces. But he's good, but he's a painter. Like he just loves the lore, he loves the stories, he loves the battles. Like that's what that encapsulates him. It's a good time, it's a place for him to kind of like, and everyone else to kind of like get some recuperation, some respite, but also enjoy the stories that come along with it.
Good.
And then you've got me, who's just a casual competitive, who's just like, let's go.
Yeah. I think that we always consider ourselves like casual competitors.
That's exactly how we'd frame ourselves as well. Yeah, it's like you're saying it. I mean, we like to, when you're playing a game, I want to win.
Yeah.
But the fun has to still be there.
Fun has to be there for sure.
But mainly the fun is for me winning.
So what was the transition from like board games to Warhammer then at that point?
So we just sort of started doing more and doing some painting videos, and then it was just like getting on board with that, and then we just sort of went, because if you've not noticed or you don't know who we are, we've kind of fully now pretty much encapsulated Warhammer as a whole. Like that's kind of what we're doing now. It's, you know, we've got battle reports, we do painting videos, we do streams, like a bit of everything really. You know, we figured out that, hang on a minute, we adore Warhammer first and foremost, and Warhammer is abundant in things you can do with it. And we think differently to other people. Everyone does. So there's always that channel in it. It's just because there's all these guides on how-tos and whatnot. Sure. And we just kind of started going like, well, we like to do it this way. So can we let's do a video on that. Let's do a battle report this way. Let's film it this way. Because at the start we were very static with it. We had like a multi-camera setup. And it was like one big locked off camera. Everyone kind of get involved. And then our spaces started to dwindle, so we just kind of went, okay, we need to rejig and rethink. And once we did make the full jump into Warhammer, we still play board games for fun, but it's more because there's so much Warhammer coming out thick and fast.
Yeah, there is actually.
Constantly, and you don't realize, like, well, I didn't realize how fast a lot of it does come out, and I'm like, but then sometimes I underestimate how long it's going to be for something to come out. So I'll be sat there going like, I hope Emperor's Children are going to come out soon. It's like, Mikey, we're still in 9th edition. We've just had the World Eaters. Like, you'll be waiting a little while. I'm like,
settle down there.
So that's kind of what we did. We just sort of started doing more and more and learning more and more. And we got involved with the Horus Heresy event when the Age of Darkness and the plastic launch was done. That was a fantastic day for us. But internally for me, I was like, oh no, now I've got heresy.
I've got to learn all the rules.
They're so good.
Like,
heresy rules, there's a lot more reactionary stuff that you can do in it. So it's not just, I'm going to do this, you have to deal with it. It's like, I'm going to do this then. And it's a lot more tactical and like...
less static, it seems. Like Warhammer's like 40k is like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's like, okay, cool, you do that. And it's like all this and then that's it kind of thing. It's like, now it's all my turn. Right now it's all my turn. So
whereas there's that kind of like, you both have things to do on each other's turns. I like the idea that vehicles can't cap objectives and things like that as well, because I'm a big player of, I'm going to go park these mortar tanks just on the back line here, and they're going to sit on my objective, and they're just going to pepper everyone, where it's like, you can transport troops, but that vehicle ain't capping anything.
Right.
So it's nice. There's just some nice changes, and the sort of lore aspect of it. Obviously, we have, you've 18 legions, one expunged, one redacted. And you've got, 9 aside, just badassery. Across the board, whether it's loyalist or traitor. In 40k, there is no good guys. You can't be like, they're the bad ones. No, they're just the ones that disagreed with Dad. I'm just saying, Horus had some points.
I like that. That. I think I'm just nervous, me, because I've been like, you mentioned before, but like obviously like the expectation of being in the hobby for a long time, you kind of think people, you've been in the hobby for a year now, well, you should know all the rules. I don't. I still get stuff wrong all the time.
40k is an incredibly complex game anyway.
And then starting Sigmar or starting something else, I'd be like, oh God, I'm going to get stuff confused and wrong all the time.
Yes. I think that's one of the things I enjoy about your channel is like, obviously we're very focused on 40k here, but you guys cover the whole gamut. So you're doing like Sigmar, Kill Team, did a fantastic video, if you haven't seen it, of Kill Team on top of a Titan.
Such a good video. That was so
crazy.
It was like, I remember the intro to it and I was like, what? I was like, no way. I clicked. I was like, all right, get a nice cup of tea and sit down. I was like, this is going to look nice. And even at that point, I don't play Kill Team, but I watched it and I was like, this is making me want to play Kill Team. Just the atmosphere that you made, it was on that video was so good.
The guys did a really good job on that one. Obviously, we're split into 2. We have Jules and Beanie down in Wales, and we have myself and Lawson, Crafting Kaiju, up here in the north. So, I mean, if we can find an Imperator Titan to play Sigmar on top, there you go.
That's a good shout.
But that's probably like in my eyes, that's the most like YouTube thing that we've kind of got that we've had. So it's like the kind of zany, crazy, we're doing this.
It just was. It was. I know what you mean. Like it works. You don't want to say clickbait, but you have to grab people. YouTube. You have to grab somebody's attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see that, and I'm looking on like recommending like they're trying a bit hard there. And this one, I was just like, that's a genius idea. I'm watching that now.
I didn't even think too much of it. I was just like, that looks sick. I was like, I need that in me right now.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yes, but yeah, you're a conglomerate or a cooperative. There's 4 of you in there. 2 of you guys based up here in the northeast.
Yeah,
and then 2 down in Wales. But you actually had to take some time. You had to take a step back for a while, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, I had to take some time out, both for mental health reasons and for physical health reasons. So the main thing that took me a while to get out of it, I'm in the process of being, I'm in the referral process. I'm sort of in the murder machine to for some neurodivergency. I'm looking at the doctors are very, very adamant that I've got ADHD.
Right.
So for me, prioritizing and keeping to a routine is horrible.
Yeah.
And my memory is just as bad. So if something's out of sight for me, it's out of mind.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been this ongoing battle that I've been trying to like balance because it's like, I've got my working job normally and then I've got my live and let's die stuff and then I kind of hit a bit of a rut with my own mental well-being, kind of hit a bit of a hole. And when it kind of felt like work, that drive, that adrenaline to complete projects and get things done and seek enjoyment out of it just wasn't there. It was like I'd be sitting there and I'd round in my head, the magic roundabout theme would be going, but in the same thing is like, you need to get that done. And it's like, well, I know I need to get that done. And then you've got this kind of battle between trying to like, oh, well, I need to enjoy it. And then it's trying to figure out exactly how I can get myself bought into an idea that I'm already bought into and get things done. Mm-hmm. And so
it's we've got my household is quite a neurodivergent household, and I think my experience as a parent, like people with ADHD or similar neurodivergence can get overwhelmed in that way.
Yes,
because your brain is going, it's like this. I want this, and this, and then you end up trying to do 15 tasks at once. And the pressure starts to come down, doesn't it?
It's hard as well because obviously all them different things that you're thinking about, they're all good ideas, and you're like, I want to do them all, but it's like, right, where do I go first, kind of thing with them.
Yeah, and so for me, getting back into it, I found it was basing.
Yeah,
just making bases for models.
That surprised me because basing was one of my most scary things to the ones I've just done over there for my nights. I was terrified to do those bases. I was messaging all of our friend group being like, does this look okay? Like, I'm super nervous about it.
And I guess I get it. Because it's like it's a hyper focused, controllable, small, achievable project.
Yeah, exactly that. And the way and that was it. That's how I got myself bought back in because it was just. It was rather than going, oh, I need to get this done, I turned it into how can I solve this problem? And it turns out I love problem solving. Right. So once I started doing problem solving, it was like, oh, this doesn't work anymore. I'm enjoying this. Let's keep going. So I built a couple of bases using. I've done a few on my Instagram. There's a giant spider that I've made a base for, and there's like this sort of like house of rocks, and then there's a web sack and there's like a web all around it, and I use some cool new techniques and stuff and new products I'd never touched before, and I was just like, oh, is this what I'm missing? So now I kind of have this ethos that I tell people if anybody asks me about painting or how do I base this, is to always keep in mind that the model that you're sticking to the base is the main character of that movie,
right?
And the base is the movie, is where they're set, where it's based, what's going on. So you can kind of like look to build a story without building a story, without like writing like 9 pages of backlog being like, Dr. Thingy was born in this part of the millennium and fought on terror, that kind of thing. It's just, all right, this is a 30-second snapshot. They're trudging through the mud. It's a trench warfare. Right, there's my Horus Heresy Death Guard. Done.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can add new things and you can do loads with it. And it really, really implores you to just try.
You see, you're making me want to now do bases first, then do my models. Because
that's how I do it.
See, I've always done model first, and then I'm like, okay, well, where would this person's suit being? And then I'm like, I put them on the base, and maybe that's where I'm going wrong, where I put them on the base, and I'm like, well, this looks awful. Like, what have I done here, kind of thing? And that's really smart. I like that idea.
Yeah, there's many like we say, there's a right way, there's a wrong way, and there's the LALD way. That's the way that we joke around. But yeah, so like when you do the base first, you're kind of like going like, oh, here's the little movie. What do you want to use? Do you want it to be light? Do you want it to be easily knocked over? Like, for example, you play Drakari, so you know that if you move one model wrong, they all go, all those guns are intertwined and they all fall over. But if you use, for example, slate shales, that stops that happening because you don't need to stick pennies to the bottom of the desk, to the bottom of the base anymore. You can literally just go, that's solid enough. That
I can hurt someone. if I lob this.
I've just started experimenting with that with some of my witches, actually. Weirdly enough. There's no possible way you could have known that unless he's been in my house.
Okay. I like it.
But yeah, I think and from that was kind of your avenue back in, and then you've been able to rediscover that love for the hobby.
So there was I rediscovered that there was a fire in there that I wasn't aware of, and so I got back into it, painting more, doing more. Because originally I wasn't a painter. I was a player.
Right.
And I did not care. So contrast range came out. I was like, hello. Slap that on. Oh, look at that. That's a solid 4 out of 10. But I don't care. They're mine. I'm here to play. Because I was tired of turning up with just the grey tide.
Yeah.
Bringing 2,000 points of nothing, essentially. When you've got someone that's maybe, they might not have the full 2,000, but they've still got, 1,500 plus painted lovely models. And I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And so I spent about 2 years solidly before I actually picked up a brush watching Lawson. Because we used to live together and we had this attic that spanned the entire house.
Nice.
But it was set up and we had like video games in the middle. Lawson had a painting table where he could do what he wants. And I was just like, what's that?
What's going on there?
Oh, that's not. We got that. That's cool. So I just watched him, and then when it came to finally sit down and do it, once I actually started painting, and Lawson's artwork, I don't know if I annoy him when I say this, but like I refer it to very like World of Warcraft, very
nice,
very magic heavy. Yeah. So like when Lawson does something that glows, boy howdy, that thing glows.
Yeah, nice.
Magic is magic. Everything is like bright highlights, sharp. Huge saturation. Usually there's some fluorescent pigmentation in there. Like he just does loud. But the way he likes to do it is he likes to be as loud as God's revolver and twice as shiny.
Nice.
I mean, he does dial it up to 11, but it's difficult to explain this without a visual aid, but he does it in a really good way.
Yeah.
So he's called Crafting Kaiju on Instagram. You need to go and check him out. If you, we'll put a link in the description.
He's a fantastic painter and an even more fantastic person.
Good.
Did you do you think that helped you when you started picking up a brush because you kind of absorbed all this by osmosis just from watching?
Well, yeah, I think it personally did. But then you see the models that I actually produced; they were the most grimy, dark, grim, dark, like John Blanche style, grim, dark minis.
Good though.
Oh, I was very happy. Yeah. I got very much into the oil washing and the enamels, which are essentially just pre-washed oil, premixed oils. Fantastic. Got very much into that kind of, I like it dirty, in the 31st millennia, there is only war, and war is not pretty. In the best of times, you can have a car park, and by the end of a war, it's just gonna be a sodden mess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for me, that was great. And then it was like the compare and contrast with Lawson. So it was always something where I could look at what he's doing and go, oh well, if I want to get brighter, I can do it like he did it. I can use that. I can use this technique. Oh, I've seen him do this, and I want to try that with this. And it's just experimentation.
Good. Yeah.
And then I guess just to touch back on the health thing, I ended up with a big tumour.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I'll keep it short. I had a kidney stone that put me in hospital, so I had to go to A&E because I was like, am I going to die?
Yeah,
I think I might. I made peace with all 4 of the Chaos Gods.
Wow.
And it was the worst. So it turns out I was just passing a kidney stone internally. And
that does hurt like hell, though.
Yeah.
I've never experienced pain like it.
Oh God.
And I've had some rough injuries over the years.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to a hospital thinking like, oh, okay, I've got a kidney stone. They were like, you're fine. Like, it's just kidney stone. We pumped you full of morphine and we're just going to go scan you to make sure you're okay. And then when I came up and ran from the scan, they were like, we've seen something on the scan. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean you've seen something? They're like, don't worry about it. We're just going to let your doctor know. And I was like, great. So then wasn't the doctor. I got, you need to come and have a consultation with a surgeon. And I've got, like, I really suffer badly from, like, white coat syndrome. So, like, as soon as I, like, step foot in a car park of a hospital, I'm like,
this is it. Like,
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm tetchy. It's the fight or flight response. And I'm not rude. I just hate being there.
Yeah.
And so I got there and they were basically just like, so if you didn't know, they were like, you've got a tumour on your liver and it's quite substantial. And I was like, how substantial is substantial? And they were like, don't worry, we should be able to do keyhole surgery. But it is about, I think it was 11 centimetres.
Wow.
Jesus.
In diameter. And there's Warhammer bases that size.
Just
the big
ones.
Yeah. So I had that cut out and they were like, yeah, you got about 3 weeks. And then they were like, okay, so what we're going to do is we should be able to do a keyhole and remove it. And then they rang me the night before and just went, oh, by the way, just so we don't drop this on you. And I'm like, it's the night before.
It's like 11 o'clock at night. It's like, hold on.
It was like 7 o'clock and I had to be at the hospital for 7. So it was like 12 hours before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, by the way, it's not keyhole surgery. And it was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you have to have a full liver resection. So they took half my liver. But because of where the tumour was, they had to remove like half the liver and the gallbladder. So they just made sure, they were like, look, we don't want any risk of this coming back. Didn't even have a biopsy at this point. They were just like, we don't care, we're taking it out and we'll test it after. That thing is too big. It should not be there.
Yeah.
So they did that, took that out. I moved back to my parents for 6 months and I lived in Cumbria, basically I was bedbound. I didn't leave my bed for like 2 weeks solid. I was just asleep, consuming constant films and a lot of morphine. And while I was in hospital, I was thinking about painting and it was like, they were just like, oh, by the way, we're just going to give you some fentanyl. And I kind of went, what? And they were like, don't worry. You're not going to die. So don't worry. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was just thinking, and I was thinking about like painting and stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this for a while. And I passed back out and they didn't really think about it. And it was when I was back home and my mum was like, are you able to sit up? And I was like, for about 3 seconds and I'm done. So I was bedbound for about 2.5 months solidly, like only, having to get someone to help me up to go to the toilet, things like that, just to get out. I would walk about 10 to 15 meters a day and it was all I could do. To the point where obviously I was doing it every day and it was during the summer in which when I moved back home to Newcastle, people were like, that lad that you were with, to my mum, they're like, that is he okay? Like, because obviously I just disappeared after that.
Of course, yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's just gone home. It's like, thank God for that.
Yeah.
But while I was at home, King Brod got released, the big mega gargan.
Oh, right, yeah.
Sigmar Knights.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's one of the leader of the Sons of Behemat, who are like, the Gargants and the Mega Gargants, the big boys. And when I was able to sit down, I just sat and I was able to paint again. And I spent, because I ended up with a morphine addiction, I couldn't sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, like they just plied me, and like obviously it was necessary for my recovery, but obviously it had some impacting damage.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, so I'd have some morphine, I couldn't paint, and there was one night I said to my mum, I was like, I'm just gonna get up and I'm gonna do a little bit of paint. She's like, can you go downstairs on your own? I was like, yeah, don't worry. And she came back down in the morning. I was still there. It was 7 a.m. and I was just sat there painting, and she was like, are you okay? And I went, look what I've done, Mum. And she just stopped and she got really upset, and she's like, that's amazing. And it's nice to see you being back to who you are.
Yes.
And so for me, that was a big thing to be like, well, if my, like, I'm a huge, me and my mum are very, very close. Me and my family, my entire family are very close. And my mum, when she was like, "Oh, I'm so proud that you're getting back into it and you're doing what you love," that was me going like, "Right, I'm back. I don't care. Once I'm able to sit down and do what I can do, that's me back. I'm in." Like that was the mental check mark that I needed. I was like, there is
nothing like a very near-death experience to clarify what you love and what you want to do, is there?
Yeah, and it's so bizarre. Like, I made peace with whatever deities, that exist. I was just like, I might go here. And it was so bizarre. And obviously, but you make some choices in your head. You're like, yeah, that doesn't really matter anymore. Like, why am I stressing over things like that? I'm literally staring what I believe to be death in the face.
Yeah. So I'm speechless, to be fair, mate. I think it's a lovely story. There's a lot of people out there who obviously love to see you still there. And I think it's great that you're back into the hobby as well.
Yeah.
Painting, getting it. And is that kind of what made you then become more of a painter than a player, would you say?
Yeah. So it was the more I got into painting and when I kind of went, hang on a minute, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, there's always, one of my friends from back home, we talk painting all the time. Like, we talk pretty much every week, but guaranteed every other day we will mention something about painting, be it something we've seen, a cool technique we want to try, something new that's coming out, we're talking about it. And he's always like, oh, well, I'm not that good and it'll take me a while to get it done. But just because something might take you a long time doesn't mean you're not good. Like, the idea of...
True.
It's going to be a weird analogy that I'm going to use here, but I compare painting to, like, MMA and Ju-jitsu.
All right.
Right, okay.
Because there are so many different techniques to get a job done. There's plenty of different ways to finish a person in the cage, in the ring, on the floor. But it's how you use the techniques and how you mix them all together and where you specialize, that's where the jiu-jitsu, the application of basic technique is your blue belts.
Yes.
But, even the black belts are going to be using the same techniques that the blue belts are. So
that's a good way to
It's that idea of you're just adding, it's all, every time you learn something new, you've just got another pen in your pencil case. That you'll occasionally pull out and go like, oh, I think I'll give that a go, or that might look nice, or a product that you've used. You might have just discovered like dirty down rust or something like that, which is magic in a bottle.
Yeah.
But you might have used that, but you might have also learned, well, I could do it all manually by using, this technique with this texture in there, and then you do it. So, there's many different ways to skin a cat, and there's many different ways to
Don't skin your cat.
Don't do that.
But I think the analogy really works because I'm not a black belt painter by any means, but that jiu-jitsu analogy really works because if you're a black belt painter, your individual style is made up from those components, but will be completely unique to you and different to another black belt painter.
Yeah. So, and it's that thing. So you've got the likes of like Darren Latham.
Yeah.
Oh, the man is a lovely person and lovely painter, what I mean? Like, I'm underselling that. Like,
he's phenomenal, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely breathtaking work. But then you've got the likes of, for example, like Duncan.
Yeah.
Duncan's a very different sort of like black belt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you've got all the black belts out there that maybe don't have that same recognition either. So you've got the people who are a lot lower in follower count, but the content of their work is also fantastic. So there's so much for everyone to get.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think I definitely get in the mindset of like, I'll paint my Necron and I'm like, okay, I need to do the exact same way for the rest of them. And then I'll start doing it and then I'll get to the end and I'm like, I'll discover another video and I'm like, they had either such a better way of doing it or there's something more to add to it. And I'm like, well, now I wish I'd done that. And I wish I found or discovered that video beforehand.
Yeah.
And going back and redoing them, you could certainly do it, but it's just
there's a mental thing of once it's done, I think, isn't there, to a certain degree? And there's nothing wrong with that, really, is it?
No, absolutely not. And it's always done. It's only done when you say it's done.
That's
so
true.
If you're happy with the result, or even if you're not happy with the result, but you know where you want to change it next time, there's nothing to stop you either picking up another unit and trying the different techniques, trying the different techniques on a different model altogether just to practice. Or, there's that thing that we all say we're going to go and do, but we rarely do it. And that's stripping models and starting again, because it's that idea of, I feel when you strip it, unless you're doing like competition level or Golden Demon painting, it's unnecessary. And I feel like personally, you're stripping away what you've done and what you can learn from it. So unless you've learned everything from said model, even if it's an objective 2 out of 10 paint job, as long as there's something that you can take away from it, just because it might not look as eye-catching as something else you've done, you could go, well, actually, I've realized that because I've thinned my paint down to a certain degree there, the layering's a lot smoother, so I'll take away from next time how to layer that shape, how to layer that area. That's really nice. And that's it for me. Like, I personally, I struggle painting bald heads. Yeah. For some reason,
you need some practice. It's quite a big surface area.
It's that idea of you've got to kind of achieve the light valuation of the circle on the head, like the spherical head, but then you've got to bring up the highlights to the same point without going too far so the face looks like they're wearing paint. Face paint.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm sure it was you who mentioned it off camera when we were getting a coffee one time, was where you have to think about, right, when you're painting this model, where is the light coming from?
Yes.
And I hadn't even considered that, because obviously all our paint is Necron, so they're just like silver, gold. But obviously you're speaking about bald head and obviously an actual face. You do have to consider where the light's coming from, because it'll hit the top of the head and then there'll be a shadow on part of the nose and such. And I'm like, I didn't even think of that. That is crazy.
And there's a lot of like light work out there that you can do, and most people go for a 12 high noon zenithal kind of thing.
That's the only way I know how to do it.
Yeah.
But you've also got, you could do evening lighting. You could hit it front on. You could hit it from the side, so you've got all the shadows down one side, and it's making that transition smooth. It's making it, and it's that, to quote Futurama, when you do things right, people won't realize you've done anything at all. So when you actually achieve the lighting perfectly, people are just going to look and go, oh, that's lush, that, but no one's going to mention it.
Not consider, the light's coming from, it's more just like, that looks like a good model. It's like, there's so much more to it. Like, let me talk about it.
Come on, just ask me. And it's that thing of they're just encapsulated in that moment. And every model is a snapshot of action. And that's the thing as well, like, speaking of action, it's like I was saying before, the movie is the base, the character is the thing, and the whole thing together is the scene. And you've got some real good people out there who are good at creating just snapshots of action. You've got these people who make essential massive dioramas of just crazy. Could be a Necromunda bar scene. And everything, every little detail is accounted for, to, vermin in the corners, to the neon signs on the walls.
Well, it was the one of Golden Demon, the Blood Bowl, I think is what it's
Blood
called.
Bowl,
and it was just like, there was a referee, a little gnome, whatever, and there was an orc who stepped on one of the other players, and I'm like, it all comes together. And I look at it, and I'm like, where did he start?
These dioramas that you can tell it, obviously you've got a bit more room to play with to tell a story, but being able to tell a story with just a model and a base is incredible. Is clever. There's quite a lot you can do. Obviously, and again, it scales up. Like if you're building a knight, you can do quite a lot with that. Real estate, can't you? I guess.
Real estate.
Do you ever consider yourself participating in Golden Demon?
Eventually, I do want to. So I guess like to have a goal. I would just because. I would say personally, a commended entry of Golden Demon is achievable. It's achievable for anyone, but obviously the standard for Golden Demon nowadays, 20 years ago, I'd be like, oh, hello. If I could do what I can do now, and then 20 years ago, I'd be like, I could maybe, get somewhere with it. But like, obviously nowadays, I mean, you should never say I'm never going to be capable of doing it, because I've come a long way personally from just a guy who didn't care. To, producing models that I'm genuinely proud of.
Really good models.
To the point where my 3-year-old nephew now demands to see the dinosaur. He's obsessed with dinosaurs. And I've been painting some Seraphim lately from their latest releases. And I've really just all I've been focusing on is just some nice layering, doing some scales, creating depth. And I showed it to him, and now he's just like, says to him, my mum sent me a video of him just going, Mikey, dinosaur. Where dinosaur? Where Mikey? It's in a different city, mate. I want it now. And it's like, so it's one of these where I probably will eventually give him that little model just as a statue, but at the moment, everything goes in his face. So it's like, no, don't be putting that. So for Golden Demon, I think it's as a kind of competition, I want to strive for that. But it's become so much more than just painting now. It is a model making competition.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if you saw the Tau bust that won, I think it was maybe like 2-3 years ago. Someone had sculpted their own bust of basically a Tau
Battlesuit?
No, it wasn't a battlesuit. It was the actual Tau person within it, and they had like the helmet off and whatnot. And
incredible.
Because they sculpted it themselves and like 3D sculpted it, printed it out, and just painted it. And I was just like, how?
Yeah.
But at the same time, do it again. So, it's become so much more, and there's people out there. When we were down at Warhammer Fest last year, there were people there. We met some friends that got commended entries. One of Lawson's friends won silver in Golden Doom, and that was fantastic. And it was a really nice model. It was a diorama of one of the Necromunda, I think they're called like the Dusk Raiders. And he was just sat by... I've probably butchered the name, and I'm sorry. And they were just sat by their campfire, and it was just a guy living his life in the wasteland. It was just this lovely little piece of a tent, and a guy sat next to a fire, and the OSL was gorgeous. And everything was really dark, and the OSL really brought the warmth from the fire. Like, basically brought everything to life. And fantastic. And you get there, and you look at some, and there was one person made a diorama of a painting desk.
Yes.
So it was a miniature painting desk with all these little pieces on, and like the pieces of the model were the parts that they painted. And it was just like, who thinks of that?
Yeah.
I'm just there going like, all right, could we get like some goblins like cooking villagers on a fire? Like I just think a little like D&D little like little set pieces, and I'm like, well, maybe I could do that, and maybe I could do this. But then you've got people who just think, again, so far removed from the box that it's a line, it's a dot. It's insane.
Crazy.
It is. The levels are incredible, and I think that was one of our highlights of Warhammer Fest. Was not that there wasn't that many highlights. We had a good time.
Q-Fest.
It was a bit of an empty shed. But the Golden Demon was incredible. Like the standard of the entries there was just amazing, and the number of, like you were saying there, things that I would never have conceived of doing. That's what the levels are just,
It's just nice going able to walk. Because you can spend, I could have spent hours just looking at the models. Unfortunately, the queue was moving quite fast, but it was just, you looked at one and you mentioned there's so much detail in kind of how the light position. I want to see how it's all done. And I'm just like, I could look at this one model for hours and just be like, this looks incredible.
That's where we actually met you. I think it was on the last day when you had a rotten hangover and you were still awesome. You just took the time to have a chat with us, and it was very kind of you. But it was I was actually, as much as people got salty about Warhammer Fest, we were kind of sad it didn't happen this year.
It was a hole that I was hoping to get filled.
I'm hoping to do something again soon. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a good time.
It was.
You were there with obviously with Live and Let's Dice. There was a bunch of you guys there, and in terms of you being back involved in the in LALD now, what are you doing? What we talked a lot about. You've set yourself some. Had a word with yourself, and decide this is what you want to do. Which bits do you want to do? What's coming up next? So you've got quite a lot going on, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a few projects on the go. So me, first and foremost, I want to improve my painting. That's my main thing. I want to produce way more painting content, be it ranging from here's a tutorial on how to achieve this with whatever models. But I also want to do a lot more in the sense of there's a lot of stuff out there, to tell you how to paint the Mona Lisa.
Yes.
But no one tells you how to. Not many people are going, here's what you want to do if you want to mix paint to this consistency.
Yeah. Here's
how to do facial layering. Here's how to do if you want to achieve denim on pants. It's just, there's a lot of stuff out there. Here's how to do it to the top, to very, very high standard. There's not a lot of people out there going, it's okay if you're not the best.
Yeah.
And here's a tutorial that's easy to get your hands on or get your head around. That's why for me, a lot of the time, I always say in a lot of my painting videos, this is not a tutorial. This is not me telling you how to do something. This is literally me just marking the steps that I've used, and if you want to follow along, feel free.
You see, it spoke to, I don't want to sound too cheesy here, but you're the first time I watched one of your tutorials that you don't call a tutorial, but it really spoke to me because with the high level stuff, I get anxious watching it sometimes and stressed because there's too many steps, and I know I can't physically do that level of painting yet. I'm not there. But somebody that breaks it down like you do into that step by step, and those steps I can feel are achievable, but they're still pushing me a little bit. It's that for me is exactly what I've been looking for from painting guides.
Thank you very much. I mean, that means like a heap to me, and that makes it a lot all worth it.
But I can't be alone. There must be tens of thousands of people like me who aren't, who need that, the intermediates, if you like.
Like even that aspect of not a how-to video, but more of a this is what makes it look good, gets me into the video because I'm just like, well, I'm not here to learn how to do something. I'm just here to be like, this looks class. How can I do something similar over here? Kind of thing. And that's why if you watch a how-to video, it's like very specific. You need this paint, you need this, you need that. Whereas yours will be like, this is what I'm aiming to achieve. This will be really good. And I'm like, I'm going to take that away and do it over here. So yeah, it's really good. And looking forward to get more of them coming out, mate. Honestly.
Oh, thank you very much. But yeah, I think that also stems from the ethos of fun of what we do with Living Let's Dice. It's not, a group of guys like, this is how you do things. This is,
this is the only way. We're the right way. No one helping else.
Rather than play the meta, here it is, like competitive, whatever. We just kind of go, I'm going to do this today.
Yeah.
Let's see how it finds out. Let's see what happens. So like currently at the moment, there's a video that it's just come out, and it's the Dark Oath scheme. Basically, here's my Dark Oath scheme. I wanted to achieve an ashen feel to their skin, so everything's greys. I wanted it to be, the vibe I wanted is they've made this Dark Oath to chaos, and they've had to give some of their humanity.
Right, nice.
So they've lost saturation in their skin. It's all grey, and I just sort of went, okay, here we go, and here's how to do it battle ready, because nobody's gonna paint. Well, sorry, if you do paint 20 Marines or 20 of a unit to the 10 out of 10 standard, like, well done you, but at the same time, stop it. Like, you're just gonna drive yourself into an early grave, and I just want to get them done. So it's just like, it's a quick thing of, all right, use black on the skin here, put some greens here, do some browns here, mix and match what you've got. So it's a mixture of me doing some small layering, a little bit of contrast work over the gray plastic, because I don't see the point of brightening it up if it's just a leather belt strap.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because I want to get them done. I want them on the tabletop. So for me, it's like the bases are literally just slap some texture paste on, slick the model on, and then just bash some colors onto it, and then put some contrast over the top. Because for 10 models that you're only going to be looking at a minimum of a meter away from, like if you look at this far away, you're going to notice all of the things that you've missed, or maybe details that you haven't. But the human eye and the brain, the way they work is, if you don't see something, your brain just makes it up and fills it in. So literally you'll look at it and you go, oh, that looks sick. Oh, hey.
Sometimes you do just need to like paint something and just be like, oh, hold on. This looks good. Like, this looks really nice.
Something that resonated that you said with me in that video was if you spend all your hours painting one model to a 9 or 10 out of 10, or in my case a 6 probably, but and then the other 9 of that unit are grey, that's going to look worse than if you can knock out 10 battle ready, because that cohesion of them just all looking together.
That adds value, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly.
I think you can almost, I was going to say as well, you can almost translate that to actually the building element as well, because if we mentioned off camera before, I started an Imperial Guard army and I started magnetizing all of the weapons and like all of the guns with the tanks and such, but each tank has like 6 variations. So I just got so like just in it where I was like, right, I must get these done. And then by the end of the 6 tanks that I'd built in my Baneblade and I magnetized it all, I was like, I don't want to paint this. Like,
you'd lost my
mojo.
Lost your mojo. It was quite funny. This went on for weeks. Obviously, we've got like a chat with the other lads that we play Warhammer with, similar as everybody does. And we were just like, what are you up to, Jack? Magnetizing. What are you up to, Jack?
Weeks on weeks.
Still magnetizing.
Yeah. And then obviously some of them wouldn't fit, so I had to buy more. And then I was like, I hate my life. And I've honestly just boxed them. Well, boxed them. They're on my piles behind me.
It's one of these where when you realize that magnetizing Warhammer is a hobby in its own right.
It changes the hobby, but then it's like, I've got so much more to do. I'm like, I don't want to do all this now.
It's because anytime you see magnetization,
Yeah.
you literally see the finished product. Nobody shows you the work and the labored hours that they put in. They literally just go, do you want to see this Space Marine's arm snap on really quickly? And they'll just throw it at it and it just clicks in. You're like, oh. But when you're doing it, you're like, and then you have that realization, oh, I've got to paint the entire kit.
Yes.
Not just the model and the parts that I've chosen. You need to paint everything just so you can throw it all together. And then if you're like me, you'll lose bits. And then you've just got this little silver disc sticking out.
It's horrible.
Like
I've just started the big night and I'm like, cool, he has like 3 different variants or 4 or 5 different variants or whatever. And I'm like gluing it and thinking it. I'm just like, oh God, like this is good, this is fun, but like I've got to paint all these.
I'm a very lazy man, and it comes down to like time versus price. Like, so if a Bane blade's 100 quid, and magnetizing it's going to take me 5 hours, and I can get a second-hand Bane blade with the other loadout for 50 quid, I'll just buy another Bane blade,
or just run 2 Bane blades in your list.
It's a win-win.
But if it's also like casual sort of, if it's a group of friends and you're wanting to test out something for like a tournament, like you can literally be like, look, it's this, but I'm running it as
that's
this,
true.
you know,
Like, and I think someone said like, oh well, look, build the one you want, like magnetize the one you want, and then just paint the one you want, and then if you want to run a different variation of it, then paint it at that time. I think it's a smarter play.
40k at the moment is more relaxed, is the most relaxed I can remember it about that kind of loadout than in a long time.
Do you reckon that's because they've like obviously made all of them free now? Because obviously the war gear used to pay them separately for different things, but now it's all flat rate, isn't it?
I think so, and also they did what they always do. We were talking before we started recording about how they switched up the Knights loadouts. Imperial Knights like went from being melee to from being gunline to melee. And I'm convinced that's like, you might call me a cynic, but it feels a bit deliberate because they did it across quite a few factions. It's like, oh, you've built it this way, but now this is the meta. Buy some more plastic.
I hated that aspect of it. Yeah.
I guess when capitalism's involved, it's hard to kind of like skew away
they've
from
got to make money.
Ulterior motives, and obviously, like you say, at the end of the day, it's a business. They got to make some money, but at the same time, I think Knights just sort of ended up in that area where their ranged weaponry was so good.
Yeah. It was 9th, wasn't it? Was that when they were so good? Was it?
Yes, 9th was. They were really good. Obviously, for me personally, I played them at the end of 8th, and when they moved into 9th, they were like, oh, big focus on melee and the honor system and the points that they get, and I just went, hang on a minute. There's only one of them that has a dedicated melee weapon, and that was Canis Rex, and I was just like, I'm not going. There is no way, without me dropping another like, however much on another couple, 2, 3, 5, armigers, even with the armigers and stuff. 5 nights just to play an army. I was like, nah, and that kind of, I hit the point with Knights then, and I was like, how about Death Guard? That's cool. Nice, And I ended up playing Death Guard on a whim as well. Like I was just I just wanted a hobby. I was in the hobby shop, and I just wanted like a painting project, a little hobby within my hobby. And I was like, is that Mortarion? And I've got a habit of doing that. Like there's so many like shops we go to, or like like little treasure troves, like Graham's Workshop.
Oh yes,
love a rummage in Graham's. And I'd just be like,
what's that?
That's a knight.
Caught your eye.
That's Mortarion. I think I bought. I got a box set when I was in there as well. It's like, you don't need that. I was like, I don't care.
I'm getting it.
I think I've never taken you to Graham's Workshop. He's got loads of old hammer in there, like lots of metal.
I'm kind of bad with the metal ones. Like I see it on eBay, I'm like, that's a bargain. It's not, but I'm just like, I'm grabbing it. Anyway.
He's got drawers upon drawers of old hammer, and it's everything separated into Chaos, like Xenos, Imperium, and it's just.
So
let's
wrap up this podcast early. Let's get going.
Still open.
Wallet's on me. But that sounds good.
It's quite, most of it's quite reasonably priced. It's not a gouger. Like
no.
One of my pals, Lee from the Betrayed by Dice podcast, he took his first visit there this week and got the. He's about my age, so a lot of it's like nostalgia shopping. But he got the 2nd edition Warhammer Fantasy rulebook for like a couple of quid.
Amazing.
Like that's my childhood. You've just bought in your hand there.
We have to go.
Yeah,
we've got to go now.
But I know exactly what you mean about being like, and that's that's what the hobby should be about, because, and I think for me, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have a chat with you on here, and what I enjoy about Live and Let's Dice is you're like the anti-meta. That it's the opposite of that cookie cutter approach. It's like, we like this, we love this, and that's what we want to do. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, Jules and Beanie are really good at that. The amount of just what we refer to as, well, there's two kinds of lists in our eyes. Well, no, there's three technically. You've got banter lists, absolutely, and then you've got cheese lists, and then you've got those who are just trying to make something competitive. You know, and banter is all, like I say, from first and foremost. If we're gonna play a game, we want to have fun. So if I want to bring, 6 death copters or whatever, like one of us will do it. If somebody goes, I've had this idea, it's not going to work, it's going to be terrible, like, right, bring that to the tabletop and we'll play. We'll see how it goes. And if it's really funny, like, or it's terrible, what's to stop us using it for something else? Or like the idea of me and Lawson have a couple of ideas of just like, right, we're going to have a death match. This unit versus, it's like literally this unit and the same unit. Who's going to win? Just little things like that. We did there's been a few times where we've just been like, a monster mash. Let's just pick a monster each off the table and just have a fight. And like, I think there's a lot of stinky competitive stuff out there, as in like, here is, build it like this and you will face roll people. There is a lot of that. And obviously with a game with so many stats and so many units, there's always going to be an optimal combination. There's going to be those combinations that are absolutely busted. Just like vile. I think like one of them, like at the start of 10th, Primaris Lieutenants with Devastating Marines. Critical hits, and you're just like, bah, 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 dead. Everything's dead. Amazing. What was this? Sustained and devastating wounds at the same time.
Indirect fire. It was like playing. It's like being playing with the annoying kid in the playground. He's like, well, I'm stood behind this wall, but I can still shoot you. Okay, thanks.
That was tough. It was tough.
Magic armor.
I felt bad when I was. Obviously, the cheesy list I love was my 3 monoliths that I took to a tournament once, and I was purely just like, this will be fun. You know what? I was like, at the time, I was like, I feel like if I went versus like Tar or Knights, they would just blow me off the field. I've got no invuln save, they would just wiped us. But I didn't go against any of them. I was just going against like these little chaff units, and I was like, okay, I feel bad. It's just me going around. I did manage to get to the last table, and the last person I versed was a Knights player. And by turn 2, I had no monoliths, and I had 3 units that I could only afford in my list, and I was like, I've lost, and I knew I've lost, but I was like, I'm just gonna hide from you. It just turned into a game of him just finding my last unit, and I was like, only had 1 model left, and I was like hiding behind a little house, and I was like, you're not getting this. I'm gonna make all my saves.
But that's, to a certain degree, like we will go to tournaments, but we're never running like the newest hotness or anything like that. No. Sometimes you just out of badness will just take a meme list or something that somebody tells you.
It's just funny. Just for fun. I'm there to roll dice. I'm like, I want to play. I want to have fun. I want to roll dice. It's gonna be fun.
It's a little story that you're making together. Like, it's a little battle that that has random elements to it. There's going to be a victor. There's going to be a loser. Might be a draw. Probably not. But there might be. Like, I mean, the last tournament I ended up going to for. It wasn't the last one. The time before last, I took 3 models. It was a 1250 point list, and I brought 3 knights.
Nice.
Yes,
it
was a
Castellan. You're talking Jack's language here,
Canis Rex, and 1 Armiger. I just didn't care.
I'm pitching a 10 right now.
I was hungover, and I was just there to be like, and that's dead, and that's dead, and that's dead.
It's so bliss, though, just to be like, my moving phase. Done. It's a relaxing game when you have like such a little units like that. You don't have to worry too much.
One of my favorite things though about playing 40k is if I get first turn, usually it's that thing of, I'll get myself up the field. I am horrible because I will only move, if I'm first, I will only move half my movement because if they move their full movement on their turn, they still got my half movement to get to me. So usually by turn 2, I'm charging in first, so it's just like, or I've got something with long enough range, like when I played Necrons, I used to do it, and I'd set up the big cannon thing, Doomsday Arc. You set one of them on, it was just full power,
72 inch range,
you're hitting like the table over there. You're like, oh, by the way, mate, that night.
Sorry, mate, apologies. It is good.
Heaps of fun. So in terms of going back to projects that I'm working on, it's important to produce some content that helps people learn.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be how to do the best. It's just that like I was saying before, there's a lot of stuff out there on how to do like the best of the best. This is how to achieve what you want to achieve in manageable techniques and manageable chunks.
Yeah.
It's never going to be, oh, do you want to do, you know, the Void Dragon entirely layered, entirely done, upside down.
Or with only one hand.
With painted using bananas.
We were talking about that actually in the past. With the pillow and such,
and so it was just like, well, because like for me, that wouldn't help me.
No.
And that wouldn't help my brother who doesn't paint. He doesn't know, but he's interested in it. So it's like I was just taking that information I passed down to him and kind of going, oh, cool. So if you want to get like, you know, some flesh done, here's a quick way to do it. If you want to do it a bit more in depth, you can do it this way. So I'm just kind of creating stuff that I think is kind of like would be provides some value, and I've got a very strange editing style. In uni, my course director basically just went, everything that you do is very punk. And I was like, but I'm not trying to be. He's like, no. But it is. But it is.
Okay. I'm not asking, I'm telling.
So I'm doing a few painting projects as well, just for myself. Good. That's the thing I'm doing. So I've got a cabinet at home behind me, and I'm a huge horror fan. Nice. So huge, like slasher movies are my favorite. Like I stand by the first Scream is one of the best horror films ever created. But I'm painting horror villains at the moment. So I've done Michael Myers. That's the only one I've done. But I've got they're all 3D prints. I've got like I'm buying loads of STLs for myself, and it's like I'm doing Art the Clown. I've got
Jason Voorhees.
Yes. But I've got two Jason Voorhees. I've got Jason X, and I've got the second film because I don't want to paint his mother.
No.
You know, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, all those good guys. And eventually I've just got, you know, I want like a cabinet behind me just to be like, that's nice. But I'm also moving into anime stuff as well. Like, not for any sort of thing. It's just to play with it. Just because obviously there's so many bright, colorful animes out there. You know, you've got One Piece, you've got Dragon Ball, which is the one that got me into everything, and then you've got like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I've got a print that it's so big that I had to get my mate to print the base off because my build plate was too small.
Wow. Oh, really?
It's about a wedge like that, right?
Right.
And it's a desert, like sort of sand area with like some bones and stuff. And it's Dio from JoJo stood like that with his stand, the world behind him, just like that. But I've got another one which is Jotaro and Star Platinum, so they're both like bookends essentially. Oh, nice. It's like it's the kind of yin and yang, kind of like good and evil sort of like thing. So,
nice.
But obviously, the two can't exist without the other, that kind of thing. So it's like, I'm just doing some stuff for me. I'm doing some printing, doing some painting. I'm trying to learn certain new skills. I'm just doing stuff that I want to do, whilst also, helping push LALD and working as a group and just getting back into Warhammer. Like a few months ago, I had a dip in my kind of like interest in Warhammer. Not like I was off it. I was just like, I've got all this stuff to do. My interest in it is a peak low. I literally was saying to the boys, like, I'm at a peak low with it. I'm really struggling. Yeah. And 2 days later, I'd completely forgotten that I'd said that. And I was into something new. And I was like, oh, I'm painting cloaks. Like, I love painting cloaks. Don't know what it is.
Really?
I love painting red capes.
Red capes?
Red capes in specifics.
I struggle with that one as well.
Yeah.
But the only cape I've really painted, I guess the flayed ones, they don't have capes, but they're just like...
Skin capes.
Skin capes, yeah. Really
original
that
cape,
one, to be fair, yeah. But it was the Silent King, he has that one on, which I was pretty happy with.
I don't know, there's something very satisfying about a red cape. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's from like Super Mario.
Yeah.
From a kid, like Super Mario World with the red cape. Where
Superman kind of style, maybe.
Yeah, Superman, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's very quintessential superhero, isn't it?
Yeah, it's iconic in a way, isn't it? You see, you're like, oh, they're the good guys, and it's like, oh, I get death mark or something.
We put that on the death guard. So capes are a big one because obviously they can be dirty, they can be clean. You can have dirty armor with a clean cape, and you got so much you can do with it.
Oh, I like the ones that I'm starting to see now, where it's like the kind of camouflage cloak going between the camouflage,
the active camo,
and it's like, that's like a whole new level of like that's two separate capes, and then a third mixture in the middle cape because it's like the transition, and it's like How do people do this?
This
is crazy.
There's some perfect work out there, especially for Alpha Legion.
Yes, where it's like moving.
Yeah, you got like the moving camo, so you'll have like, their legs will be Imperial Fist, but the top half is like the camo coming up, so it's like all of the serpent stuff, and then
it's just, you see that and you're like, beautiful.
That's a skill. That's one I want to learn. I want to be able to do that. Yeah, because I never do it. Never had to. I mean, you don't have to really do that kind of thing too much in Sigmar. Like, it doesn't really, the opportunity doesn't really arise, but I'm always game to learn. Like,
that's the main thing.
Yeah, it's just, there's so much out there to learn, and this was something for me that I think that it was a big takeaway and made me realize that painting was something that I love, is when I was in institutional learning, like being in university, you went primary school, college, uni. You kind of get sick of learning by that point. You're like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't need to know this. I'm not interested.
Henry VIII. Whatever.
But as soon as I'd left institutional learning, and I was like, hang on a minute, I can learn whenever I want, whatever I want, on my time.
Yeah.
Oh. I love it. I just change things. All I'm doing now is just trying to learn new things. Like this the generation that I'm part of, we won't hire a plumber. We'll go on YouTube and learn how to do it first. Whereas, my dad, he would be like, I haven't a clue. Yeah. I'll just ring a plumber. Whereas now I'm like so used to learning at a rate and how I want to learn it. I can just be like, oh, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just quickly have a look online and see if I can find how. Oh, it looks all right. I'll give that a go.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's like I feel like I've got to try something once, and if I try it and I like it, I'll do it again. Yeah. Try it and hate it, well, I'm probably gonna get someone to do it for me.
Yeah, that's it. Do anything twice, you know what I mean? So applying that logic to painting, I was just like, oh great, I'll learn that. Oh, that looks really cool. I want to learn that. But as I kind of got into it more, I started to learn. I got really into like learning about light valuation and the amount. One thing that was really strange for me was learning, trying to figure out the right amount of brush charge. So the amount of paint on your brush.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So, because if you have too much on, and I always test on my fingernail, and if it doesn't come off flat and smooth and sort of pools a little bit, I've got way too much on. Knock a bit more off.
Okay,
have a little look. And that does the same on the model. If as soon as you touch it and it's overcharged, it'll just bleed onto it. So there's little things like that, and once you kind of learn those little techniques, you couple them with other things, and you realize that hang on a minute, low charge painting goes really well with layering because you don't want too much on, so you want to keep that opacity through it.
Right.
So there's little things that you can kind of half learn without learning before you learn something, if that makes sense.
It does, because it kind of stacks up, doesn't it? Like you say, like
it's modular.
Yes. And is that the aspect of the hobby that you think you love the most? Then is painting. I mean, obviously you still like rolling dice and playing stuff. But
because you mentioned you like playing at the start and then now painting side of things.
Yeah. So I'm wanting to take the jump into competitive Sigmar.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh,
nice.
So Sigmar, an already like very swingy kind of. Oh, if this goes off, I've won. If this goes off, I might not have.
Yeah.
So for me, I like that kind of like random element where it's not like, oh, I'm playing this guy who has won for the past 10 years. There's like, no, there may be a thing, because everything's got like a grand scheme and a grand strategy. So everyone's got their own kind of secret goal that they're trying to get out.
I did see that in the latest episode that you've done, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, but we weren't using them at that time. So like now I'm like, right, okay, new army, we've got a new edition coming around the corner. So for me, I was just like, right, I want to learn competitive Slaves to Darkness. And the new Dark Oath box came out, so I was like, right, I'll get them, and that's what I'm going to learn. Yeah. So for me, the aspect of the hobby that I like is it's painting. Good. I think for me, my top love is I've gone from a casual player to a competitive player, to a casual competitive player into a painter now, and now I'm competing with myself for painting, and it's the most lovely thing because I can talk to my mum about it, and I can talk to my family about it, and people will ask me questions, and I like talking about what I like. It's that whole thing of when you meet people that are on your level and you kind of like connect with people and you're both sharing things that you both like, but you're both coming at the same topic from 10 different angles.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You can learn so much. just from having a chat with people. And I think doing the channel has allowed us to meet so many people within the Warhammer community, be it fans of Warhammer or content creators, or even just one of the things that I absolutely love, and it still happens to this day, when people at work find out that I do Live and Let's Dice, like I'm a part of that channel, and it's a Warhammer channel, I'll have like 65-year-old blokes just come out like the woodworks, like, yeah, Mikey, I used to paint a bit of Warhammer, you know, and I'm like, yeah, show me it. So I've got some friends that people like I've never spoken to, like up until they mentioned Warhammer to me, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I've got like one of my real good friends at work. You know, he's married, he's got kids, kids are like the same age as me, but we just sit and talk about the Horus Heresy. So that helps the days go. You know, it's like you're connecting, you're talking about something you love, and you're learning things as well. So it's just talking about like who's your favorite Primarch, things like that. So for me, like painting, yes, is the aspect of the hobby that I love the most, but doing the hobby has opened up so much for us, as people and as a channel. Like,
I think it's because like the law itself is like so. I mean, even outside the law, like the painting, like techniques that you can learn and stuff. Like again, the law side of things, I love learning more and more about the law and that. And it's a friend at work where I'm just like, oh, so you collect the Imperial Guard and such? She's like, yeah. I'm like, tell me. I want to absorb what is it that you've got? What do you do? What is this? And it's like the techniques, the armies, and the techniques that come into play when they're actually playing the game itself. It's like, well, you're playing Imperial Guard, I play Necrons. How do Imperial Guard play? Like, it's a completely different element, and that's why I love the competitive scene, because it's like we go to tournaments and I learn so much. Because it's like they're playing an army in such a different ways, and it's like this is really good to talk about.
And I'm interested in competitive Sigmar because it feels quite different to competitive 40k. Because of that swinginess, I think it's a bit more relaxed. It looks like from the outside looking in, like one of my pals, Craig, who's currently painting some Necrons for me. Thank you, Craig. But he loves competitive Sigmar for that reason. Like, because you can still, like you say, you can take, you still take your A game. But sometimes things will just go like events will kind of coalesce and things will just go against you or go for you.
Yeah, like if it's not written in the stars, it's not written in the stars. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, I think Sigmar, like personally, I know you guys boys are 40k boys, but
watch your mouth.
Sigmar's got the better models.
Okay, 100%. I'll admit that one.
Especially the current releases that are coming out. You know, they've just been previewing the Skaven stuff on the Warhammer community site. You know, with that big release thing that they're talking about. They've just been showing off some of the new models. Oh my god. Like revamping an old kit that's been unloved for years, and it's like, oh, by the way, you've got new clan rats, like things like that. It's absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love that. It's this, because 40k is obviously, it's very 80s sci-fi. It's very Dune-y. It's very, it's obviously satire as well. Whereas Sigmar, it's like, it's taken, for me personally, I feel like it's got that, it's got the Lord of the Rings vibe, but it's also got the lowest fantasy elements possible in the cities of Sigmar. It's just cannons and dwarves and stuff, ranging all the way through to the realm of death. Having ludicrous things happen within it, like Skaven burrowing through, because somehow Skaven can burrow through realms,
through dimensions, basically.
And then obviously burrow under the realm of death and drop part of it into another realm, and then like swarm it and thwart Nagash's plans.
Jesus, I'm trying to keep up here. That's crazy. That sounds crazy, to be fair.
If you like lore and you like, just get yourself amongst the mortal realms.
It took me a while because my first love was fantasy. And then like a lot of us, it was like a dagger in the heart when they killed fantasy off, and it took me a long time to kind of forgive Sigmar, because it wasn't Sigmar's fault.
It did nothing.
But in terms of the models, 40k models don't do this very well, but Sigmar do, is that the individual model will tell a story. Like, you can get so much character and narrative in a Sigmar model, which you don't, there's not many ways to express that in 40k, I don't think.
I remember us doing a video where we're like reviewing like all the latest releases, some of those pictures. I remember us sitting there looking at like the Sigmar stuff, and we were like, oh, fucking hell, this Sigma was like much fucking better. And I was like, we got to talk about stupid fucking Primaris or something like that. We're just like, these like fucking sick. I think there was a dragon on one of them.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I think it was the Tomb King's release when they did the Undead Dragon.
Yes, I looked at that and I was like, fucking hell.
Oh,
I was
the bone dragon.
Yeah. I was just like, that looks so good. So I've got to admit, you're right. Definitely got better releases coming out.
Speaking of the dagger in the heart, the Beasts of Chaos. They
Oh
were
my god! Yes,
my first love. Right, that's who I got into when I was playing. Like, I played Warhammer Fantasy back when I was a kid, and being like, I remember like turning up to the table and someone had some Goblin fanatics, and I was just like, so how do they move? And it was like, throw your dice and you can wipe out your own wipe out your own people. And it was just like, oh, cool. And then I came back to the table and saw them in Sigma, and I was like, oh, do they do the thing? Honestly, you would have thought I slapped their mum on Christmas. They were like, no, they don't do that. And I was like, well, they used to. Fine. And then I was just like, what are these goat men? The Beasts of Chaos, like the Gores, the best. Yeah. The best army. Well, it's not. They're my personal favorite, but they've been given the shit can treatment of you're off to Legends.
Yeah, the whole faction though, like not just in like the whole faction.
Just
that. See that even like little obviously I talk about the grot tanks going away.
The Orc
like,
Codex.
I'm still mad. I don't even collect orcs, but I'm still mad at that.
For them.
Yeah, exactly.
One of our we've talked about this already on the pod. One of our friends, in anticipation of the Orc Codex, 3D printed and painted 24 grot tanks.
Amazing.
and then found out that they've gone to Legends.
Like got the Codex. Codex has the grot tanks in there, and then like the same day a post comes out and it's like, oh, these are now in Legends. It's like I've just got the Codex. Like, I've just
So we got a flavour of what they did, but doing it to a whole faction must have hurt.
That hurts. I mean, imagine collecting. I mean, Negrons. Imagine if Negrons just like go to Legends,
just like, gone. Yeah,
it's like, great.
It hurt, but because they were so unloved for so long, like you were looking at like the old Warhammer shop website, and you'd be there like flicking away, like do, and it'd be like, oh, Skaven 21 unit, 34 units, Stormcast Eternals 138, they've got all these, and there's like Beasts of Chaos 16 for so long, and the only thing that we got was, oh, here's a new hero on foot, and it was like, oh, lovely, great, and it's a Beast Lord who's no longer doing this, he's now doing this, and then, but they had like, I never played them the way that you were supposed to, like everyone made like hordes, you were just bringing like 50 Ungors, you were bringing like 60 Ungor Raiders, like 40 Bestigors. I was just like, I will take the minimum of the troops and I want all of the monsters. So I had like, my list was known like just kind of jokingly around our circle as the menagerie, because it was literally just animal, beast, and all these different sizes, and I bring them and they all do stupid things. And like, what does this one do? That one bleeds acid. So like that, to get that, get told that they're going, and like obviously with the story of Sigmar, there's all these different realms, the mortal realms, and part of it was set in Gur, which is the realm of beasts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, Beasts of Chaos coming back, we're gonna get some love. No, we got an Underworld's warband and
bit of terrain,
just sad,
and a new hero, and then we got a kick in the dick. But what makes it even worse is by the time my 33rd birthday comes up, that's when they're going officially gone. Because it was like summer of 25, and it was just like, no, it actually works out. It's like July, like 25. I was like, oh, great. Sad, but all of those people who want to buy them for fantasy, if you've got some square bases, I will be selling some Beasts of Chaos. But yeah, no, they're going into fantasy. There's a big push for fantasy at the moment. But it's nice that they've just gone, these are the 8 factions that are supported in Old World.
Yes.
Have fun.
Yes.
Rather than being, we've got to keep up with the climb of Sigmar. You got the climb of 40k with all this new stuff. You couldn't have then going, oh, by the way, we've got all these new models coming out as well. It's just, so there's that. It's like, it feels like everything's sort of almost like encapsulated.
Yeah, it's almost what the lessons are kind of learned from Heresy is it's kind because it's an enclosed, like limited thing, isn't it? Like you said, you've got your legions, and that's basically it. Obviously, there's still stuff that needs to come out to fill that out.
Yeah,
but I think it's much better for Games Workshop to whole ass one thing rather than half ass lots of things. If that makes sense.
Put your whole ass into it. That's absolutely. Just I think it's going to work. I think it works wonders for them when they do that. When they get an idea that they can grab onto and really push it and really do something special with it.
Yeah.
And everyone likes a bit of nostalgia.
Of course.
So you couple the two together and you, like you're saying, you're whole ass in some nostalgia. You're
Yeah,
laughing.
yeah.
Very nice, very nice. What about in terms of like the hobbying itself? Because I've got my girlfriend downstairs. I'm just like, paint some Warhammer for me. I want you to do it. You've recently got your girlfriend to help out, right?
Yes, yeah. Mia, she's bless her. She kind of got strong armed into it. So, obviously, you've got to set the scene, like kind of thing. You've kind of got to like find out what the ground is, like where their interests meet yours. And the main one that got us kind of started with it was she was reading. She reads a lot of fantasy. She loves fantasy, loves Lord of the Rings,
Right.
So I was like, right, okay. I was like, oh, cool. And she's always been interested. Like when we started like getting together, we were like talking, and I was like, oh, she was like, oh, what are you into? And I was like, but I'm not gonna hide it. It's who I am. I'm very into Warhammer. And she kind of went, oh, cool. And I went, oh, and she's like, oh yeah. No, I've always been interested. I've always wanted to actually go into a shop, but I'm actually it's quite intimidating. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she said like, oh, I feel like it's American Werewolf in London where they go into the slaughtered lamb and it's like everyone stops and turns.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, it doesn't make me feel I'm not very comfortable in going in, so I'd rather we'll go in together, or we'll just talk about it. I was like, right, cool, yeah, awesome. So we were just talking, and I was like, do you want to, because she does art as well. She did art at uni, so she's a very good painter. Good. So I was just kind of like, how good at painting are you? She's like, yeah, I think I'm okay. And I was just like, well, I've got some spare models if you want to kick about, like just have a bit of fun with it. And she was just like, yeah, like sure, why not? Because she was like, teach me. Oh, okay. She was like, from the start, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. And I was like, okay. So it was a 3D print of a colossal squig, so big, and it had some print fails on it because it's an old printer. Of
course, yeah.
So
you're not going to give it the good stuff, are you?
That's mine. So we printed this colossal squig, and it had some print fails on its head. So she was like, "Oh, that's a bit weird. Like there's like some dips and gaps and stuff." And I was like, don't you worry. So I was like, we'll get some green stuff.
Nice.
So we green stuffed it in a way, and basically how it ended up looking is it looks like it's just got 3 gouges down the back of this thing. Nice. So it looks like it's just battle worn. It's like it's an injured animal. Good. So we were like, right, okay, cool. So we did that, let it all dry, and got a painting. And then I was like, she painted the model. She was like, oh, I'm really happy with it because at the start she was. She was in that aspect of painting when you first get in and you're putting effort in, but you can't see the fruits of your labor just yet. And she was like, oh, it doesn't look very good. Like, I'm worried. Like, am I just wasting my time? It's like, no, keep going. Like, add the layers. Do what?
I've definitely tried to get my last into I remember painting, I think it was like 50 warriors at one point. I was doing batch painting and I was sitting there. My back was killing us. And I was like painting them. And I was like, would you fancy painting some of these for me? She was just like, no, not doing it. Never. And I was like, please. But I just couldn't get her in.
It comes back to bases. Basing is a gateway drug to so that's how my last started off. I need to be careful how I phrase this. I started my last off with rimming. And she's really good at it.
Oh man!
But yeah, painting base. It's an easy. Rimming is a good way to get them involved. Painting bases, and then from that, gave her the confidence to think, oh well, I can do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, I can do.
You can see why girls are scared to come into the hobby, aren't you? They're not going to walk into the store with that.
Yeah, no. I want to learn about rimming, please.
So yeah, it was that. It's getting her into it, and she did really well. Like I showed us like the Yoo-hoo glue trick for saliva and stuff. Right, nice. Really, and like she put some flowers on the base. She's really happy. She was really happy with it.
Yeah,
and it's going to be used in my goblins force as well.
Nice.
Why not? So it's like, oh yeah, look, you've got to do that. It's going to appear in videos. It's going to be, it's cool. So she really, really loved it. And then I kind of went, I really want to build some terrain. I've got loads of foam kicking about. And she was like, hang on, what? And I was like, yeah. Like, do you want to, should we build something together? Let's, rather than just being like, oh, we've bought these, let's make it and paint it. It was like, let's do it where only us have this. Like, nobody else has got one of these. She was like, yeah, like, what were you thinking? And obviously I was planning Path to Glory in my head. So I was like, oh, like I could like a big temple or something. And I told her about it, and I started talking about like Aztec temples and stuff. We started looking at pictures and stuff, and I was like, we could do this, like dead easy. And she was like, how do you mean? I was like, get me one of those pieces. So I cut a block up and kind of, you know, like not sanded it, but like broke it up and like smoothed it out. And then grabbed my ball of tinfoil and like stamped it and like hit it and like hammered it. And it made the blue cube just look like a blue rock. Like the texture was there, but the color wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, she was like, right, what do we do? I was like, right, we'll get some, you know, craft paint, put that on cheap. Then we'll dry brush on and we'll do that. And as soon as she saw like the fruits of her labor, she was like, oh, this is cool. And then I kind of turned to her and I was like, do you want to do the really cool part though? She's like, what do you mean really cool part? I was like, this entire temple needs like mossing.
Right.
So she was like, yeah. So she's got like she got some like special flock that she's like wedged in between the cracks. So it's like coming out. Then she's using like dirty down on the actual rock to paint like the green parts in the corners. And we did that, and she was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's given her the confidence to start painting fully.
Brilliant. From the start, like from
yeah.
fresh,
So she's only just started, but she's got her. I bought her a little Underworld's warband. I got her the Crimson Court, so it's the Soulblight Great Lords, the Vampire Count one. So she really likes the vampires. So she's like, right, well, I'll tell you what. Her birthday was coming up, so it was added into like as an extra little present. And it was just like, I've got you these. It's not the main present, you know. Don't worry. It's literally if you want to do it. And she started doing it, and she's very interested in the lore. So, and 3D trailers. So any sort of like 3D animated renderings of trailers and things like that. So, you know, the new Warhammer Skaventide one, the Sigmar line, and there's just this big battle going on.
Yeah.
That. She loved that.
Just gets it
She loved. She like loves all of the Warcraft cinematics. You know, those really high end trailer kind of things. So she loves that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for her, amidst it all, we watched. I was like, so, and she's a big sci-fi fan as well. So I was like, right, this is it.
Hey,
do you want to watch the Stardies? And she was like, yeah. So we watched the entire thing. She was like, is there more? And I was like,
not yet.
There will be, but not now.
Yeah, that was a good show. Like,
yeah, it was really good. So we watched all that, and so it was just we. I guess like what we did was we just turned it into a thing to do together.
Good.
It's just a
That's
hobby.
the main thing,
It's an activity. Do you know what I mean, that we can do together? So at the moment, we're currently working on this. We've set ourselves a challenge. We've set ourselves a challenge of, can we buy some cheap tat from the supermarket, like the home section of Asda for under $5, and can we turn it into a piece of terrain?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So we've bought these horrible golden blue, like wall hanging string, like tiles on strings, but they're all weird shapes. So we broke one out, and one just had this like eye on it. So we broke it, snapped it out, put it in, and we've built this kind of like runic circle around it.
Oh yes, I've seen this. Yes, yeah, that's great.
So then we've put like we've like written in chaos runes, like we've written like doom to all the gods and stuff. So like if you know about chaos runes, you can read it and go, that's pretty cool.
It sounds very much something I would see off like Dawn of War kind of style.
Yeah.
Like
basically it's very like loads of runes. You know, we're doing some stone, so we still need to dust the airbrush off and go for like glowing rune effect, but little things like that. So now she's like, can we make I think we should make a bridge next. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, how do we do cliffs? And I'm like, will you? Well, we can find out. So, and again, there's a plethora of like information out there. And obviously, you know, YouTube's such a big thing now. Like when you're, I'm just going to sit down and have a coffee, you know, rather than like, you know, flicking through telly for half an hour, you'll just go, I can watch a video on that. Or I can watch, I'll put Black Magic Craft on and watch him do some like, you know, mad terrain stuff. So I can go, hang on a minute, I've got those things in my house. And then next thing you know, you're there building a walkway out of like, you know, coffee stirrers and stuff. And it's that whole thing, like the original, you remember like the old codexes, where it was like, if you don't have this tank, you can build your own speeder out of a deodorant bottle.
Yes.
Doing that stuff again, like that grassroots terrain building, like where it's literally, I've got some plastic, there's texture paint on it, but you won't know.
Yeah. Well, it's like a flashback to the old obviously when Warhammer first came out, we've talked in the past, where it's like literally people would just play with the cardboards because it was like, you know, they couldn't get the model, so like, oh, here's a bit of cardboard. You know, this is now a
I do feel that is that's a part of the hobby that I want to explore more, because I used to love that bit as a kid and a teen, making your own stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it looked like trash, you were so proud of it because you'd done it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think because it's that when once GW monetized terrain, you lose that creativity. Uniqueness is exactly right.
My lass has started building these little miniature shops, like miniature like sweet shops or miniature like coffee shops. So she got into them because I was trying to get her in Warhammer, and I was like, you should like have a hobby, like you should do crafting when I'm doing my Warhammer. So she got me into that. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and sneak in some terrain. To be like, hey, why don't you fancy paying this terrain? And then hopefully terrain goes on to more models and such from there. That's my plan.
Do you know who'd look really, really good selling sweets?
Yeah.
This prime
Yes. I like that,
yeah. The lion.
Straight to the big one, yeah.
What flavour of bonbons do you require?
I like it.
Full grip?
Well, he'd sell you some sweets, wouldn't he? Yeah.
He's selling sweets.
Don't accept sweets from or say thank you, because they're probably expensive.
There's probably an 80s video that is like, those ones like, don't run on train tracks, don't touch pylons, and don't accept sweets from Fulgrim.
80s PSAs, right? Like when they showed them at like school and stuff. This is something that like Lawson and I have spoke about a lot. We assumed as children that fire would be a lot more dangerous and a lot more everywhere.
Yeah. It's like fire had a mind of its own. It's like, oh, it's coming for us.
But I don't think I've seen a fire in about 5 years.
Yeah, we'll touch wood. But no, absolutely right. It's like I was actually talking to Hannah about this the other day, because we were talking about like there was a car outside mine, and I was like, that car looks stolen. And we're going to that mentality of like, when you watch like Blockbuster, it's like you wouldn't download a car. Like now it's like you wouldn't download Warhammer. Well, actually, I would. Yeah. Actually, I would all the time.
But that's it feels in a way that the hobby is kind of coming back around. Like, I do think the cycles in the hobby, we've been in it long enough, and we went through that stage of GW trying to monetize every aspect of it, which is like we said, they're a business, they're entitled to do that. But 3D printing has kind of reopened that whole thing back up again to be like, it's your hobby again, go and do it. It's a sandbox again, go and do what you want.
There's a lot more terrain bits that are coming out and such. A lovely Necron one that I've seen, the foldable Necron terrain.
Foldable.
Necron
Ruins. My God.
I'm so much looking forward to that, because again, it's the foldable element of it, where it's like, I mean, I've got loads of terrain below me here, but it's like, it's a massive boxed, so the foldiness to it, I just can't wait. It's just gonna be so good.
And like you were saying, just to say, it's like it's a very cyclical. It's very cyclical, but it's always under the guise of new technology or new techniques.
Yes.
So slap chop, for example. Like, I personally don't like it. But that's me. Like, if you're just wanting to get things done, great.
Well, you touched on this before when you're talking, and I've watched this in your Dark Oath painting tutorial. You've primed this model grey, and you're like, I'm going to put some contrast on there. And I was like, he can't do that. He hasn't Zenithal highlighted it yet. But you did, yeah.
But I did. I will.
And it looks perfectly fine.
It did. It looks amazing. It's like, bugger, you can. He has. It's good. So how dare you?
Obviously, the highlights aren't as bright in certain areas, but for me personally, like, I don't use slap chop. That's just. But if, to be honest, I have used it. If I'm like, oh, I've got a game coming up and I need to get it finished, there you go. Done a couple of models. It's done. So that, like, we already had contrast painting, and then it kind of comes around full circle, and then slap chop came in, which is just dry brushing highlights beforehand, but it took the painting community by storm, because people were like, it looks so much better than just simple contrast over the top. You're creating amazing highlights, and if it's done correctly, it can look fantastic. But a lot of people don't start. They start too low, so it's very dark, and then go grey, and then white, or it'll go grey, then just straight white without that kind of like.
My biggest mistake was doing exactly that. If you start from black, some of those contrast paints do not sit well on black at all.
No, and I guess it's the same as me and you looking at each other. My sort of areas of shadow here, they're not black.
No.
So you've got to have that kind of like you've got to start from
kind of thing,
low to mid-range tones and then build from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so the slap chop, you know, almost revolutionized the painting industry. Well, not industry, but the painting kind of community.
Culture,
yeah, the culture behind it, because people were okay with the fact that, you know, it's quicker. It's mad quicker. It's absolutely insane how quick it is. But it's that whole thing of, like, you know, people who say the vibe I was kind of getting from the slap chop thing is, oh, well, if, you know, same with tattoos, or if it didn't hurt, you don't deserve it. It's like, it's not how it works, but okay, sure. But, you know, it's great to see people who were so non-confident in painting producing work to a standard that everyone else was painting. So, like, slap chop, for that reason, when I say I don't like it, it's like I just don't use it. It's just not. It's not in my toolkit. I like, if I'm going to dry brush, I like dry brush a little bit of color on. I use contrast paints to build on. So, you know, great for base coating, and then you can just, like, add to it. And it kind of, with the way it works, it kind of pre-shows you where your shadows could be. So you can kind of work on it that way. So yeah, like 3D printing is exactly the same. It's like, oh, the DIY element's back, but with new technology, and it's like, but you can. Have you thought about adding this alternative sculpt in? And it's opened a doorway for a lot of designers out there, and I think some of the design elements out there, like there's a guy called Mezgeik.
Right.
Personal, like, love his work. Absolutely adore his work. He's got a painting tutorial on how to paint a Death Guard. What are they called? The normal Marines.
Plague-based crawler?
No, the Marines.
Plague
Marines, yeah.
It's 4-hour tutorial on how to paint a Plague Marine. But
4 hours? Yeah.
All of the steps are in there. My God, it is beautiful. Yeah. And then I found out from that video, oh, actually, this is one of my custom sculpts. You know, you can do this.
Right.
And then he's got these orc sculpts, and he's got all these grand shamans, and it's like the work there. So you've got all of these people who maybe wouldn't get the credit without having Warhammer there. These people might have been sculpting for video games or sculpting for movies or props or something, rather than them designing all of these mad models and going, join my Patreon, you can have them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cracking. Patreons are one of the best things for Warhammer. It's one thing that if you find someone's painting Patreon that you like, it's always recommended, give it a go. I'd say, you know, you've got people whose Patreons are £7 a month, and these guys are Golden Demon winners.
Yeah.
If you're gonna learn anything, you're gonna learn something. Yeah. If anything, there's definitely something there for you. And even if it's just a slight change in your painting ethos, or a slight change in how you do stuff. It could be techniques. It could be how much paint you put on. It could be the brand of paint you use, you know. And if you learn something, because there are so many brands out there and so many different techniques out there. So I always say, if you like one, give it a go for a month. You might learn something.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I remember I literally bought a blue, and I stuck with this blue for ages for my Necrons. And I was like, you know what other blues are out there? And I went out and just bought like 4 or 5 different types of blues. Yeah. And just painted 5 new Necrons. And I was like, I now like this new one that I've now got. And I started using that blue going forward. And it's like that. I think I mentioned before. It's like you're getting that habit or that mindset of, I need to use this paint forever. No. Experiment. Try new things. I think a month's probably a good shout. Like, give yourself a month, use this paint as much as you like. Yeah. Right, let's try something new now. If it runs out, get something else. See what else.
For the cost of, like, you know, as always, everything that costs a cup of coffee sales, but it basically is, isn't it? Or a pint these days. Yeah. So for that price, if you can get, get yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm very much a nightmare for that. Is like I'm like, oh, I know I can do this. Yeah. But this is a bit scary, so I'm just going to stay here.
Stay my lane, kind of thing. Yeah. Saying that, how many different types of paints do you have in yours?
Oh,
we've talked about like all the stuff that you've been buying, using. You mentioned obviously you collect the Greg's matchsticks that you mentioned before for bridges and stuff.
I've actually got some in my pocket.
For
when we went to get bacon sandwiches this morning.
So how much stuff do you actually have?
Okay, so I've got 2 desks. One next to each other. One's my computer desk for my editing and stuff, and then I've got about 10-foot office desk. So paint brands.
Yeah.
Pro Acryl, Citadel.
Yep.
I've got 1 or 2 AK,
Nice,
just like texture paints. I've got Dirty Down stuff. I've got Reaper Bones, which is they are my
Yeah.
I
Reaper Bones?
love.
Yeah, I've never heard of these guys. Yeah.
I love Reaper Bones paints. Yeah. They're a very they seem to be a quite small company.
Gonna write it down to be fair.
But they also produce their own minis as well, and they're in like that rubbery plastic kind of thing, so they're dirt cheap.
Right, okay.
And if you want to just buy something for like a painting project, but they do paint sets, so you can buy like. It'll be like, I don't know, 15 quid, and it'll be like 6 or 7 paints, and all of them work together. So they're all linked in, and every paint they produce has a triad. So you can get the shadow, the base, and the highlight. So all 3 of them are going to work.
Oh, okay.
But I bought this set, and it was called Fire and Brimstone, and it goes from it's deep. It's called Red Brick, then it's Deep Red, then it goes into Blood Red, Fire Red, Phoenix Red, Fire Orange, and something else. And literally, you can just go, point A, point B. So you've got the lowest and the highest. And if you put in as many steps as you can between each one, the smooth finish of the highlight of the layering is beautiful.
You're looking at that paint set and thinking red cloaks.
Where's
the red? Where's the red?
That's the paint set that put me onto painting red cloaks.
Is it?
Oh, there you go.
Because of the saturation in it. They're beautiful. They're quite satiny. The coverage is great. They're in little dropper bottles already. I love them.
Yeah.
They're my personal favourites. So that's 5, and then if we add in I've got a couple of, I think I've got a scale 75 one in there, where more like a gel paint rather than like a satiny kind of thing. When you find out the paint finish is totally mad, like Pro Acryl is the most matte paint you will see.
Yeah.
Oh, no light is bouncing off that. Like, mwah.
Fair enough.
But you can obviously, you can use your gloss varnishes and stuff. So yeah, I've got about 6 or 7 paint ranges.
Nice. The full set as well.
No, I donated a lot of them. So I got a friend who I donated loads of stuff. He used to play Warhammer when he was a kid and wants to get back into it. So I was just like, look, mate, a lot of these are just, they're ruined paints. But but here you go. Here's some brushes. These are crap brushes. Like, I don't use them, so somebody else may use them. And now since then, he's gone out and he's buying more range. Oh wait, Vallejo, there's 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's buying his own range now, and he's building a little hobby space. It's really nice. So like, we'll talk. He'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to paint this, and here's what I want to do. Will this work?" And I find myself sometimes, I feel like I'm dogging on him because I'm like going like, "No, don't do that. That won't. You won't get the desired effect. What I would do is I would do it like this."
Right.
But it's one of these where I'm always saying to him at the end of every conversation we have is like, I know I come across as a bit of a knob, but I'm just like. When I
you want the best for him. You want the best for that model and him, basically. So you're writing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I just I'm trying to keep him like right, and I'm just like, just do it like this.
Yeah.
But he's at that stage now where he's getting to grips with everything. He just wants a bit of confirmation that he's doing the right thing.
Right.
So when he sends me through a picture, I'm either like, that looks amazing. Are you finished with it?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, no. And I'll be like, right, what are you doing next? Where are you going with it? But if he says he's finished, I'm like, right, looks great, mate, for exactly what you want.
Yeah.
He's a big D&D player now, so he just keeps painting these models because he wants his players to have a good time.
Yeah.
So for me, that's great because it's like he's learning. I'm kind of like, talking about painting, and it helps me refine what I know. And then you've got him doing all this stuff. So
it's really good though, because like there's nothing worse. I mean, I remember painting my knights. Spray painted them and I was doing the silver, and I was like, oh, do I do gold now? And I was like, well, if I'm scared, because if I start doing the gold, I might mess up somewhere else. And I just need that confirmation before I put paint onto the model before I mess it up. So the confirmation side of things for me is all. That's why I put it in our chat all the time, being like, is this going to work? Am I going to mess it up?
It's the one aspect of the hobby where we can really be a community and support each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's very difficult, like, partly because I'm an idiot, but if you can't teach me how to play Sigmar, you can tell me what the rules are, and I have to put some games in to learn how to do it.
Like, kinesthetically learn it, yeah.
But there are things that you can help other painters with in terms of aesthetic choices, but also little shortcuts or recommending a product, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the great part, especially for something that's quite an isolating hobby. I say it tends to be done in isolation.
Yes.
It's that nice community aspect that bridges the gaps. It's like, oh, I've been doing this. What are you doing? Like, how would you do this? Like, we've got, several Warhammer chats. But like, for example, in the Live and Let's Dice chat, it's me, Lawson, Jules, and Beanie, and we're just like, here's what I'm working on. Yeah. And everyone's either, that's amazing, or dude, I can't wait to see it finish, or it's like, where are you going next with it? No one ever says like,
that's trash.
Why would you do it like
this?
that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I would do it like this. Yeah. It's more of a kind of like, we're all there to gas each other up, and that's the way it should be, because Warhammer's for everyone.
It is. Yeah.
That's the top and bottom of it. It's there, and if you want to get involved with it, you can. And there's plenty of people out there that will help you learn and help you grow as a painter, as a player. You know, like the amount of times, like we have a mutual friend, obviously our mate Andy.
Yes.
He's very good at helping people learn the game.
Yeah.
So like he'd be like, oh, okay, you're going to move all these out there. But if he notices, like, for example, I don't know, let's say you move out of cover and you're not aware that I can see your entire unit, he'll go, you can, if you want, like, if you move out here, you're too exposed. Like, if you want, try maybe dialing it back a bit. Like, that kind of thing. We need more Andys.
Yes,
100%.
Like, I've played Andy a good few times, and he demolishes me every single time. He's very stupidly good.
Monster.
But I'll move and he'll be like, "Oh, don't do that. I'll do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're gonna win anyways." So if I get here, I can at least try and kill what I can over here. But he's very good at that sort of stuff. I do like him for that.
Yeah.
But that's the best of the hobby. I think there's there's an awful lot of the negative stories for obvious reasons that that they gain legs and get talked about, like sweaty tournament players and some of the worst stuff that goes on. But underneath that is a huge amount of that kind of mutual support, which is the best bit, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of these, especially with community-driven IPs, you end up with, Warhammer players, sweaty. There's a lot of negativity that precedes them. And I think it's sad when you've got this underhive of just sheer positivity and inclusivity. Yeah. And it's like you got people going like, oh, why would you want to do that? It's like, because it's the best hobby out there. Like we have, Superman is literally leading the charge for like, a multimedia like universe. Yeah. Like,
what more do you want?
Where else would you get that? Yeah. Like it's one of these where like, but it's the same with everything. You are always going to get negative elements to it, and it's what you take home. Yeah, and it's what you also put out into the universe. Yeah. Like, I've had a few negative experiences with players, and it would kind of make me go, you know what? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to paint a bit more. Like, but so like there is a plethora of good people with good skills, good information, and good stories to tell.
Yes. Yeah. And people who just generally want to help. Like a lot of people love the hobby and they want to talk about it. And it's like they see stuff online, they see questions, they're like, I'm getting involved in this. And they're just like, this is what you should do, this will be good, this will look amazing. So yeah.
And I think that's it, because there's so many people. Because there's so many people in this, it's such a broad spectrum of these things.
There's the lore, the painting, the building, the playing. There's so much to it.
But then you've got, even within each aspect, you've got niches within niches. So you've got. So think about it, right? Let's say you specify in painting red cloaks, right? Just red cloaks. Like, I wonder who that would be. But if I saw a post online, somebody talking about, I'm really struggling with red cloaks, I'd be like, this is my jam.
Yeah.
I'm in. So you've got people who are just like, this is my special area that I love talking about. Yeah. Let's put that information out there. And like, obviously communication is key, and it's hard to convey tone and manner in messages via, posts, comments, forums, things like that. So you do kind of sometimes, like, as an over worrier, like I overthink everything. And sometimes when I'm telling something, like saying like, step by step, this is how this works, this is why I would do it like this, I'm like, I hope they don't think I'm a knob. I'm just trying to help.
It's a very British thing, that, isn't it? Yeah. If you were American, you just wade in there without a second thought. We don't. Yeah, we're always overthinking that. Am I being impolite by helping this person?
It's like, this is just my advice. Like, choose to ignore it.
Yeah.
But no, it's very good. Very good. Well, no, honestly, we've talked loads today, and it's everything you've been mentioning has been lovely. So thank you so much for coming on today.
No. Thank you for having me. Thank you for deeming me worthy.
Oh, definitely more than worthy. It was a really good chat. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
So, as I said, if you're not already, go and drop a sub on Live and Let's Dice. Find them on YouTube, and we'll drop all the Instagram links in the description as well. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much.